So today we got this 2005 E500 211 chassis. A lot of you guys are familiar with it, whether you got the E500 or the E55 or even the E320. But today it's in for a few things. Mainly it has a leak. The coolant tank is completely empty and it's been leaking coolant from the top corner on the driver's side of the radiator right here. It's just been spitting coolant back. You can see a little bit of residue. I don't know if you can see with the lighting, but there's some coolant residue and it's emptied the whole tank. So this radiator got to get replaced. But the cause of that was more so because the engine mounts are bad. You can see right here, this air duct is torn just because this side of the engine has been torquing up when you apply the gas and it revs up. This side lifts, this side pushes down on the passenger side. So driver's side lifts, this side pushes down. This engine mount is probably split and there's just way too much movement from the engine, and it's been pulling on this upper radiator hose where it connects right there to the radiator. And because of that, the radiator is plastic where it connects, and all that pulling while it's hot has just cracked it. So it's leaking and it needs new engine mounts. So today we're gonna start with the engine mounts and get those replaced. Gonna have to take off the air boxes and all this covers that you see, probably take off maybe the coil packs too. And underneath the car, we're going to take off all the plastics, and I'm gonna be taking off the power steering rack, just lowering it down. You'll have a better view of what I'm talking about once I get it down, but that'll allow me to have the room I need to get the engine mounts out. So let me show you the engine mounts. So these right here are the engine mounts. We got two engine mounts in these boxes, and then this one right here is the transmission mount. Recommend replacing them all three at the same time. You see, this is the engine mount here. The rubber cover is just a little heat shield. So you can see that the top just has one bolt and the bottom also has one bolt. Sounds simple, but it's a little bit harder to get to. There's a special tool that I'll be using. I'll show you guys that later. This here is the transmission mount. Sometimes people will upgrade and get like the Black Series mounts if you want something a little bit stiffer, but OEM just is fine for a car like this. If you had an AMG, then I could see upgrading to the Black Series. Even then, I still feel like you should replace them often enough so that they do stay stiff. Lamforder is a good brand. This is not a Mercedes brand per se. Like normally I always buy all my parts at Mercedes, but this owner wanted to save some money. It's a good friend of mine, so we're trying to do him a favor and save him some money and get this car back to running like it should. So we got these Lamforder mounts, which are the same as OEM. They're OEM grade. They're really good and a little bit cheaper price. Same with this transmission mount. It's a off brand, but just for the price of it, just to get it rolling because of how bad the mounts are, it'll help save some money and still get the same function. So we're gonna get started, start taking this apart. I might set up a time lapse for you guys to watch. But yeah, let's get to it. All right, so you can see we got the air boxes and all that taken off. Gives us a little bit more room. It's still hard to see, but the engine mount is down there. It's underneath the exhaust manifold. So taking off these coil packs will probably give us a little bit more room, but with the tool that I have, I think we might be able to sneak down there to get to the bolt that we need to take off on the top of the mount. Same with this side. You can see the mount down there. I don't know if you can see because it's lighting, but it's down there. Also, you can see the valve cover gaskets probably need to be redone as soon as possible, just because right here the breather covers where it's silicone. This is all silicone under here instead of actual rubber gasket, but those need to be cracked open and resealed and then put some new gaskets on there. Both sides. You can see this side too. Pretty bad, pretty dirty, but it could be cleaned up. So new gaskets and it'll get rid of all those leaks. But for now, we're gonna get to working on getting down to those engine mounts, getting those out. So this is the tool that I use to take off the engine mounts. That's some type of part number. I don't know if it'll still work because I got this tool a long time ago, but it probably would be. But this is the side where you would put onto the bolt, and this side you'd use this extension right here. Let's see if I can do it one-handed. Boom. So it'll go like that. Yeah, that shit hard with one hand. Wish I had a cameraman. But hold on one second. Alright. So with it like that, you'll be able to get in there and get to the bolt. Let me see if I can show you. I won't be able to show you, but the bolt is hard to get down in there. So with this tool, it's going to probably need a longer extension. We'll get in there and be able to take off the top bolt. Once we get the top bolts off, I'll go underneath. I'm going to do this next, start taking off all the plastics so that I can get that power steering rack down and hanging out the way. So for now, we're right here, but let's get back to it. All right, so underneath the car, see, I've taken the plastics off. See how oily it is too. This valve cover has been leaking for a while. Looks like the transmission pan gasket might be leaking too, but first we'll do the valve cover gaskets and see if that cleans things up. If it's still dirty down here, then it's probably going to be that transmission pan gasket too. So it'd be just like a fresh transmission service, new fluid, new filter, and new gasket with all new screws. But right now we're trying to get to this engine mount right there. You see them hanging out? That's the bracket, goes to the engine, and then this is just to the subframe right here. Underneath, you can see it's one bolt. It's a 13mm bolt on the bottom. You got one on top. That's the one that I was working on from the top of the engine. But right now I'm down here just to show you guys what we're going to be taking off to get this engine mount out. So this is the power steering rack here. We're going to be taking this bolt, this bolt, this bolt here, and this bolt. So it's a total of 4 of them. Off the top of my head, I think it's an 18mm, and then on the back side they also have nuts that you're gonna have to hold as well. So I'm gonna start getting the impact and taking all this apart so that I could drop this steering rack down. Once I drop the rack down, you'll see right through here I'll have enough room to sneak that old mount out and then put the new mount in. Same thing for this side. You can see where the mount is just hanging out right there. So once I take these bolts out, 1 and 2, drop this whole plate with the steering rack, it'll just hang. It's not gonna put tension, like too much tension on anything in a bad way. So we'll let that hang out, and then we'll be able to snake that mount, old mount out, put the new mount in. I'm gonna start with this driver's side first. I'm gonna support the engine. I'm gonna be jacking it up. Use a piece of wood and a jack stand down here and just jack the engine up probably like a couple inches, really not that much, just enough to where you can get that mount loose, and once it's loose it slides out pretty easily. But yeah, I'm gonna start getting this steering rack down so that we get enough clearance and room to get them in and out. But this is where we're at. I already took off the bolts on the top, so we're down low right now, getting it done, everything we need to. So after a long fight with trying to get this bolt off, I decided that it would probably be easier and save a lot of time by trying to cut it off. I know usually it's hard to cut off bolts, but the reason that I decided to do that on this one was, one, because I could tell that this bolt by the head of it was not original. I don't know if you guys can see the head of it, but all 4 of the bolts were different. I feel like 2 in the rear were the same for the power steering rack, but these front 2 were completely different. So to me that just shows that at some point it was taken off, if not replaced, but they put different bolts for whatever reason. And when they did, the main issue that I faced with this was trying to loosen it. So I had my impact down on this end of the head of the bolt. Stop rolling. The head of the bolt, and then the back nut I was just holding with like an 18mm wrench. But it kept loosening, and then it stopped. And right now you can see that it's almost off, but it's stuck on there, like it will not come off. I tried prying it with a pry bar, I tried spinning it, but it's just free spins. Basically the threads inside of here is stripped, but still enough to grip it and hold it onto the actual bolt. So even though it was loosened all the way, I could not get the nut off of the bolt. So to save time, instead of keep on messing with this, trying to loosen it, I just cut it off. And these are usually like hard to cut. I've cut them before with like a grinder, but this time I couldn't really get a grinder in there because the clearance was tight. There really wasn't much room, maybe like 1/8 of an inch to maybe 1/4 of an inch of room for me to fit something in here to cut. So I decided to use the handy dandy Sawzall. I know a lot of you guys have used these. I've used them many times. This time though, I got this blade. Let's see if I can take it out of here one hand. So this blade is made by Diablo. It's for thick metal, but more especially it's a carbide teeth blade. So it's a lot sharper and it's a lot more durable than most of your best Sawzall blades. I can't remember how much I paid for it, but it definitely was like the most expensive blade I've ever bought for any Sawzall blade I've ever bought in my life. But because of the time that it saved, it literally cut it off in probably like 5 minutes or less, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. It went through like butter. So if you're ever faced with the same issue of trying to get a bolt off and you can't, and it's one of these really thick, high grade, this one is a 10.9, so it's pretty hard, not the hardest, but it's still hard to cut through. So usually that would be a pain in the ass, probably take like an hour, sometimes more, but with this blade, it saves you the time. So now that I got this bolt off, I can get back to swapping out those engine mounts, because we were trying to drop down the power steering rack so that we could get the mounts in and out, just having enough room in there, like enough space to get them in and out. That bolt held us up for most of the day yesterday, but today we got the right tools that we needed and made the job a lot easier. So we're gonna drop that power steering rack down so we can start getting those mounts out. All right, so this is the brace or bracket that holds the steering rack up. It was the 4 bolts, like I said, 2 shorter ones and then 2 longer ones in the rear or in the front. This is the second one from the front that we cut off. You can see that these are the 2 longer, these are the 2 shorter. This is the new engine mount that we're going to be throwing in the car. I'm going to show you what it's looking like under here. All right, so power steering rack is hanging out. With it hanging out like that, you can see it now. We can get right up in here and get to the engine mount. So it'll come in and out of here very nice and easy. That's like the most space. And this side over here is a little bit tighter, but we'll be able to squeeze it in right through here. I'm gonna push this down a little bit. You have to unplug this as well as disconnect the steering column from the actual steering wheel. It's just like a 13mm bolt and it slides right out. And then once you have this bracket all removed with those 4 bolts, the whole steering column will hang down. It looks like it's putting tension on stuff, but it's not. It's just sitting on the tie rods and it's fine. So we're gonna go ahead and support the engine. I'm gonna get a jack with a piece of wood and kind of support it on the oil pan and start with this driver's side over here. I'm gonna just jack it up probably like 1 inch or 2, just enough to where I can slide the mount out and then put the new one in and then repeat for the other side. So that's where we're at. Just wanted you guys to see what it's looking like with the steering column drop down. You can see it's like a lot of room to get up in there. So that's where we at. So here you can see how I have it supported. I just got a jack with a piece of wood. Just run it up to the oil pan, to the corner of the oil pan, just jacking it up ever so slowly, and little by little you'll get enough room. Right now we have the engine mount out. I just want to show you how I support the engine while doing this. So we got the steering rack hanging down, engine supported, and that's how you get the mount out. And over here you can see the old mount from the driver's side and then the new mount that we're going to be throwing in. That's the problem. You can see how much damage. These are like really bad, some of the worst. I've seen worse than this, but you can see the height difference. That's why the engine sits so low, and that's why there's so much movement with this engine. I feel like this probably, I don't know if you can see it, but it probably pulls up. But either way, we're gonna get that new one in there so they don't have to worry about those problems anymore. So it took a little while, but after wrestling with those engine mounts, we were finally able to get them up in there. Was able to put the power steering rack back up with the bracket that supports it, everything. So tomorrow I'm gonna get one more bolt for right there, and then it'll complete it, just one bolt there, just like the same as right here, and back there, and back there. On top, there's not really much to see. We still got to put like the air ducts and everything back. I still left some of the plastics off because we're going to also be changing out this radiator. We already have the radiator sitting in the garage like we showed you last time. It's right there where the upper radiator hose connects. Still got to go pick up the thermostat and an upper radiator hose that's been on order. Should be here today actually, so I'll go get it first thing in the morning, and we can start on the next project with this, which is the radiator. So first job is done, engine mounts as well as the transmission mount. We did that part last. It's a lot easier than the engine mounts. Over here we have the engine mounts. Step out of the sun so you can see them. So these are the old mounts. This one's from the passenger side, that one's from the driver's side. These are just like heat shield covers, as well as the transmission mount. You can see that the height of these is smashed down. Normally these would be at least like a couple inches up. I don't know if you saw earlier with the new mounts when I had them kind of side by side. Same with this one here, super smashed down. I feel like it's not even really connected, it's just hanging out in there. So now when the car starts up, it will have a lot smoother idle. Right now, or not right now, but before we changed out these mounts today, the car, when you start it up, it would just idle very, like a lot of vibrations as soon as you started it up. Now when we started it up, it should be smooth, shouldn't really feel anything. One cool thing I noticed, I don't know who did this, definitely not me. Somebody put the BB, my initials, on these engine mounts. It's weird to see that. I don't know what they're there for. Super old. Definitely wasn't me, but some I noticed. But yeah, gonna put this car back onto the ground. We also have an air strut I'm gonna show you in a second. The passenger side air strut is the one that's leaking. We've replaced the driver's side before. Here you see it, looks a little dirty, but this one on the passenger side is the one that's leaking right now. It leaks a lot actually, so the car airs out almost as soon as you put it on the ground. It'll air back up once it's running, but the compressor stays on way more than it should, so we're gonna get that Airmatic strut swapped out too. It's a pretty straightforward job compared to the engine mounts. Still takes time because you got to take the suspension apart, but should be a lot easier. I'm gonna probably save that for last. I want to do the radiator job first, and yeah. So let's go ahead and put this car on the ground. Good morning, it's a new day. We finished up those engine mounts yesterday. This morning, we're gonna be doing the last two things that we gotta do to this. First, I'm gonna start with the radiator. Gonna be taking all this off the top just so that we can slide out the radiator, which is behind this condenser. Gonna have to take out the fan, probably a whole bunch of other things to get it disconnected. We got a new upper radiator hose as well as a thermostat, just because we're gonna have everything apart and put in a new radiator. It just makes sense to put a new thermostat in there as well. So we got that with the thermostat. The lower hose still looks like it's in good condition, so I'm gonna just leave that one on there for now. If you wanted to, you could replace it just for preventing any leaks in the future, but in my experience, usually the lower radiator hoses are fine. The main reason I'm replacing this upper radiator hose is because it was pulling here on this radiator in that corner where it was leaking, so I just want to make sure that's 100% in good. Right now you can see that the reservoir doesn't even have no coolant in it, so the radiator's been leaking for a while. Surprisingly, this had like no coolant in it, and they drove the car over here. And even though the car had no coolant in it, it still wasn't overheating. The temperature was still within where it was supposed to be. The fan was on high, like real high, but even though there's no coolant, the fan kept it cool enough. The second and last thing that we're going to be doing today is replacing this Airmatic strut. I told you guys we replaced the other one on the driver's side years ago, and they say to replace them in pairs, but if you're on a budget, then sometimes you just got to replace the one and keep on rolling until the other one goes. Well, 2 years later, this one went out finally, so we're gonna put in not a new one. He went to, I think, like a used junkyard maybe, and found one. This is the Airmatic strut right here that we're going to be putting in. Not really sure how many miles it has on it, but you can tell that it is used. Supposedly it's still good and working, and he got it for a really cheap price, so we're going to throw that on there. This is the radiator that we're using. Normally get everything from the dealership, but this time the same thing, just trying to fix it for as cheap as possible, but still with quality parts. So we went over down to Northside, another local parts store down here, and got this Nissan's, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Nissan's radiator. I'll open it up and show you guys that later once I take it out the box. This is the upper radiator hose that we're going to be putting on here to go with that new radiator. Same thing, this thermostat is also from Northside, and a couple of the new gasket, so we're going to be swapping all that out, putting it all on there. And last but not least, while I'm up under there, I don't know if you guys remember, but I had to cut off this bolt for the power steering rack when we were doing the engine mounts. So since this bolt is no longer usable, we went ahead to Mercedes. That's a part number if you guys need it. Boom, boom. But got a new bolt as well as a new nut. You can see it's same length, everything. It all matches up. But we're gonna put that on there to finish off the engine mounts. And at that point, this car should be good and ready to pick up. It's been a few days doing everything that we needed to do to it, but little by little we've got it done. Probably could have got it done in a couple days, but just waiting on parts and having to work on other cars is strung along a little bit longer than we expected, but it's still gonna get done hopefully by the end of today. So let's get to jamming and taking this thing apart. I'm gonna try to drain whatever coolant I can from it. I really don't think there's much coolant in there, but I still will drain whatever is in there just so we can clear it all out and then get some new fresh coolant in there when everything's back together. So let's start taking it apart. All right, so after taking a bunch of stuff off, we were finally able to get the radiator out. That's what it's looking like in there. You can see we got the thermostat out too. Gonna be putting a new one in with a new upper hose. Over here, we got our new radiator that we're about to be throwing in here. And just by looking at it, I looked at the one that we took out. I'm gonna show you guys in a second, basically where it was leaking. But this is the upper radiator hose connection on the radiator. This is on the driver's side, and this would be the passenger side. So on this driver's side, I don't know if you guys notice a difference already from this passenger side, but this connection, I don't know what you call it, connector, it's not molded to it. It's actually two pieces. You can see where this is bolted on, two bolts. So one here and one here, and then that all just comes apart. So that's actually like two pieces. I don't know if there's a gasket in between here or not. I'm not going to take it apart to find out, to potentially ruin this new radiator. But in my opinion, I don't know why they would make that two pieces. If this one over here is one piece, I feel like it should have been molded to the actual side of the radiator, just like this passenger side. But because it's not, eventually it starts to leak, especially once you have that hose pulling on this connection right here from the bad engine mounts. That's probably why it's leaking. So I don't know why they designed it like that, but the one that we took out is exactly like that, and the one we put in is exactly like that. So it is what it is. That's the design of Mercedes, I guess. But we're gonna get to putting this one back in here now, and then after that I'll show you the old one and where it's leaking so you can visually see what I'm talking about. All right, so we got the new radiator back in there. The lower and upper radiator hose all connected. Got the new thermostat in here as well, right there. As you can see from this side, looks good. Brand new radiator, nice and shiny. So I still got to fill it up with coolant, but I'm gonna connect this and put the top plate, finish putting it back together. Still got to put the electric fan that goes in there too. Over here, this is the radiator that we took out. This is the driver's side, that's the passenger side. So this is the side that was leaking where the upper radiator hose connected. I think I showed you guys earlier on the new radiator, just the design of it, how it's like a two-piece versus being molded to it. But you can clearly see that that is where it's been leaking from. It's a common problem on most Mercedes engines, not all, but a lot of them, they leak. And when they do, it's usually on this driver's side from this exact same connection. So if you do have a leak from your radiator or you're losing coolant, you can't really figure out where it's going. A lot of times it'll be leaking from here very slowly, so you won't really notice it dripping on the ground until it gets really bad. But if you do have, you know, like coolant missing in your reservoir and you always got to top it off, I would check around and look at that upper radiator hose connection, because there's a good chance that you'll see that white residue that is left behind by the coolant once it dries. So if you see that, that's a telltale sign that you have a coolant leak and need to replace that radiator. So this is the old hose that we took off. Not really any problem with it. It wasn't necessarily leaking, but being that it was being tugged on right here at this connection, I felt it's best to replace it. The thermostat as well, since we had everything apart, it's a good time to replace it while the coolant is all drained. So little by little, we're making progress. I just finished buttoning this up, and then I could jump on the Airmatic strut, and that I think should be the final project or job to do on this car. So I got all the rest of this tops radiator support back on, fan back in, all these hoses connected, belt back in. Everything's all connected and filled up. I filled up the reservoir as high as it will go. It'll probably sink down once I start the car. But before I do that, I'm going to replace this passenger side strut that we talked about. So I'm gonna start doing what I have to take it apart, just basically getting that wheel off and a couple other bolts on the bottom, and we'll be disconnecting this air line here. And then there's 1, 2, 3 nuts to take off, and that strut will drop down. And don't forget this electrical connector on the side of it. So let's start taking that apart so we can finish up for the day. So we got the Airmatic strut out. Just wanted to show you guys what it's looking like in there without the strut. I don't know if you can see where it mounts. And then over here, we got the old strut that we just took out. And then this is a used, but one that we're going to be putting in. I would like to say new, but the new used one that we're going to be putting in. So let's get to throwing that on the car so we can air it up and finish up for the day. Alright, so I took the old air strut out, and because it was deflated, it came out pretty easily. I wouldn't say easy, but without having to disconnect too much. But being that this new or used strut was aired up, it was a little bit too tall to get in there. So one thing I do is disconnect this upper ball joint. I don't know if you guys ever had to replace Airmatic strut, but if you are and you can't air it out, or you don't want to air the strut out, all you gotta do is just take this nut off. It's like a 16 mil, and pop these apart with like a ball joint popper. Once that comes out, it gives you more than enough room to get that strut in and out, and it also brings this whole spindle down lower, so that way the extra height of it being inflated doesn't make it too hard to get out. So take about like an hour to do, maybe an hour and a half if you just, you know, not rushing. But got that one in. I'm gonna throw the wheel back on, and then I can put it onto the ground and air it up. Once I air it up, then we'll check the level of the radiator and make sure that that's all good. So I got the radiator filled as much as we can, but once we start it up, it will drop back down. But that's where we're at. All right, so we got everything back together, cleaned off the engine covers too once we put everything back on, so it looks all clean. As you can see, we got the car up. This is like the raised position, so it'll probably sit a little bit lower. I just wanted to raise it up and make sure that the height kind of holds. I do notice that on the driver's side now, seems like it's a slight leak. It's not nearly as bad as the passenger side was, because as you can see, it still holds, but it's dropping slowly. My guess is that because the car was parked for so long with that passenger airbag bad, with the car all aired out, it just wasn't good for that other bag on this driver's side in the front. So with it sitting down, if you ever have Airmatic and one of the struts go out, don't let it just sit, park it and sit, because it'll cause problems for the other bags just because they're sitting in the completely deflated position. And then once you reinflate them, it just gives you all types of issues and problems. So everything is done on this car, but I'm gonna let my friend know that he probably needs to replace this driver's side next. So hopefully this week he can come drop off another strut and we can throw it on there, and then it'll hold air like it's supposed to. Because as you can see right now, it's pretty level, but you can tell that the driver's side is dropping. But other than that, the radiator is all swapped out, coolant's all topped off, no leaks at all. So it's been a long one because we had to do the engine mounts, deal with that bolt that was stuck on the power steering rack. And then once we got the engine mount swapped out, we did the radiator, and last but not least, finally the air strut. So this car is good to go now. It's an E500, back ready for the roads of San Diego. I'm sure I'll be seeing it again sometime soon just to do that other driver's side strut. But for now, I appreciate you guys watching. I know this one was a little bit longer than most just because there was a lot to do on this one, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I appreciate you guys watching. Comment what you guys think below and like the video to show your support. It helps out a lot. If you could share it and make sure that you subscribe. But either way, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.